Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this special edition of Cairo Local Time covering Egypt's strong support to the current escalation taking place in the Gaza Strip and the humanitarian aid and delivering the humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people suffering from a lack of food, electricity, water and basic commodities. And we will now go to this short break and we'll be right back.
القوات الإسرائيلية تواصل مطاردة مئات
الدكان الأسود الكثيف المتصاعد من كل جانب. قبل لحظات كنا نتابعه لعله جرى.
نعم الآن يتم استهداف
أهلنا في فلسطين محتاجين نقف جنبهم كتف في كتف في الوقت ده. وعشان كده مؤسسة حياة كريمة هتساهم في دعم أهلنا في فلسطين بكل المساعدات الطبية والغذائية الممكنة. شاركنا في دعم ومساندة أهالي فلسطين من خلال التبرع على الحسابات التالية: كتفنا في كتف أهلنا في فلسطين.
على عهدي على ديني على أرض تلاقيني، أنا لأهلي أنا فديهم، أنا دمي فلسطيني فلسطيني فلسطيني، أنا دمي فلسطيني. موطني الجلال والجمال والسناء والبهاء في رباء والحياة والنجاة والهناء والرجاء في هواك عيوننا إليك ترحل كل يوم، تدور في أروقة المعابد، تعانق الكنائس القديمة وتمسح الحزن عن المساجد. سوف نبقى هنا كي يزول الألم، سوف نحيا سوف يحلو الندم. يا عالم أرضي محروقة، أرضي حرية مسروقة.
Welcome back, dear viewers. And on the current escalation in the Gaza Strip, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi on Wednesday held a press conference with French counterpart Emmanuel Macron following their meeting at Ittihadiyya Presidential Palace. The conference focused on the latest developments in the Palestinian territories and Israeli military attacks on Gaza Strip. In this context, President el-Sisi asserted Egypt's constant support for Palestinian people and affirmed that the state is dealing with the current issue patiently at the aim of reaching peace in all the Palestinian territories. The president also pointed out to the exerted efforts to contain the situation in Gaza Strip and reach a truce, and reiterated that Egypt is cooperating with other countries to support civilians and ease the sufferings of the Palestinian people. The two leaders agreed on the importance of stopping violence, escalation, reaching a settlement, and continuing providing humanitarian aid to people in the Strip. El-Sisi and Macron also stressed the need to put peace negotiations back on track and to reach a fair and comprehensive settlement for the Palestinian cause based on a two-state solution. And President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi extended congratulations to the armed forces on the 50th anniversary of the October War victory and asserted that October War helped to regain confidence in our capabilities. The president's remarks came as he witnessed the inspection procedures and alignment of equipment of the 4th Armored Battalion of the 3rd Field Army in Suez City on Wednesday. The Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces also said the possession of force and war equipment requires wisdom and rationality in their use, which has been a characteristic of Egypt's army. The head of state reiterated that the army's role is primarily in protecting borders and safeguarding national security. Over the current military escalation in the Gaza Strip, President el-Sisi added that Egypt is taking an active and positive role with the aim of stopping the ongoing bloodshed in Gaza. The president stressed that Egypt is also doing its best to relieve the humanitarian suffering in Gaza Strip and asserted our readiness to face challenges. And dear viewers, now we go to this report on Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry at the UN Security Council meeting on Tuesday on the situation in Gaza. Let's have a closer look.
Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry said in his speech at a United Nations Security Council UNSCE meeting on Tuesday that the situation in Gaza resulted from Israel's policies aimed at cementing an illegitimate occupation. The foreign minister added that the Israeli practices have brought us to this miserable moment, and what is happening now is the result of an accumulation of Israel's policies meant to perpetuate the illegal occupation. Egypt's top diplomat called for an immediate, sustainable, and non-conditional ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and a cessation of all practices aimed at the forced displacement of the Palestinians from their land. Such practices constitute a grave violation of international law and amount to war crimes, Shoukry asserted. He also urged international protection for the defenseless Palestinians and ensuring safe, swift, and sustainable access to humanitarian aid in Gaza, requesting Israel to assume its international responsibilities as an existing occupying power. Furthermore, he called for the formulation of a binding framework to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in line with the agreed-upon parameters established by the UNSC and international legitimacy. These parameters call for ending the occupation and establishing a Palestinian state along the pre-June 4, 1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as its capital. Shoukry spotlighted the warnings Egypt has recently repeated regarding continued and intensified Israeli practices. These practices include undermining the Palestinian Authority, dividing the West Bank and Gaza, imposing a blockade on the Gaza Strip, and repeatedly storming the West Bank cities.
Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry reiterated Egypt's rejection of any attempts to settle the Palestinian cause at the expense of neighboring countries through the displacement of Palestinians. Shoukry told a press conference held by the Arab foreign ministers on the sidelines of the UN Security Council meeting in New York on Tuesday, which tackled the ongoing conflict in the Gaza Strip, that Egypt completely rejects the displacement of Palestinians, which is considered a war crime. Egypt's top diplomat reaffirmed his condemnation of targeting civilians while urging for avoiding double standards and calling actions by their names. He said the actions committed by Israel in the Strip cannot be described as self-defense. Shoukry explained that what Israel is doing in Gaza does not meet the criteria of self-defense, a fundamental principle outlined in the United Nations Charter. It goes beyond the boundaries of legitimacy, causing immense suffering to civilians. During the press conference, Minister Shoukry urged the UNSC to assume its responsibilities to stop the hostile operations in Gaza. He also called for an immediate and sustainable ceasefire, warning of the expansion of the conflict, stressing the imperative need to halt any actions that violate international humanitarian law. Welcome back. The Arab League comprehensively rejects the U.S. draft resolution in the UN Security Council regarding Israel's war on Gaza, according to Ambassador Majed Abdel Fattah, the League's permanent representative to the United Nations. The Egyptian diplomat's remarks come as a session of the UNSC took place in New York on Tuesday to review the ongoing Gaza war. Abdel Fattah mentioned that approximately 25 Arab foreign ministers, including those from Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Libya, Tunisia, and Algeria, along the League's Secretary General, addressed the session. The Arab League objected to several points in the draft resolution, including the mischaracterization of Palestinian resistance as terrorism and the attempts to undermine this resistance. They also objected to the lack of a clear call for an immediate ceasefire, with the text only focusing on ensuring the unimpeded flow of humanitarian aid. Welcome back, and to shed more light on the current escalation taking place in the Gaza Strip, we are joined over the phone by Ambassador Mahmoud Ayoub, former assistant to the Foreign Minister. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you and to the viewers.
Sir, Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry said on Tuesday that the Israeli practices have brought the situation to this miserable moment, and what is happening now is the result of an accumulation of policies meant to perpetuate the illegal occupation. Sir, what's your take on the current escalation taking place in the Gaza Strip?
Israel is doing its best to exterminate the Palestinians from Gaza. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry was very clear in describing the situation in this miserable place in Palestine because of the aggression, Israeli aggression, which took place starting from early this month. So what is happening now is that Egypt is standing by the Palestinians, by peace, by supporting Gaza with necessary assistance of water, or food, or medicines. This is what Egypt is doing, but at the same time, we cannot accept at all what is happening in Gaza by the Israelis against the Palestinians.
Yes, sir, as you've just mentioned, the Palestinians and the civilians in Gaza are the real sufferers in this war, where they are suffering lack of food, electricity, water, and the basic life commodities, daily life commodities. The human situation is worsening day after day. Now, how can the international diplomacy help to provide international protection for the defenseless Palestinians and ensuring safe, swift, and sustainable access to humanitarian aid inside Gaza?
First, the Israeli aggression against Gaza and the Palestinians and civilians in Gaza should be stopped. Second, there is a lot of material aid which is in Egypt, prepared by Egypt and other countries, which is waiting at Rafah. A long convoy of hundreds of containers are waiting, and what they accepted, what was approved, just 20 or 25 containers, which is nothing compared to the hundreds of containers needed daily by the Gazans at this time. The international community has a duty to stop the Israeli aggression against Palestinians, and at the same time lend a hand to the civilians in Gaza who are facing these atrocities by the Israeli occupation and aggression against them.
Mm-hmm. Ambassador Ayoub, to what extent does the current situation highlight the emergency of the formulation of a binding framework to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in line with the agreed-upon parameters established by the United Nations Security Council and international legitimacy?
The international legitimacy and the Security Council of the United Nations are clear in setting the basic ideas, basic points, which should be followed by both parties, that is Palestinians and the Israelis. What is needed now is the implementation of this, or putting it in practice in Gaza, because a lot of casualties are falling every day. Hundreds of people, of children, of women, and of elderly citizens are dying because lack of water. You cannot imagine that. So Egypt is doing its best in this respect, but Israel has to play a role in stopping it should stop the aggression at the moment. Otherwise, situation will spread to other countries in the Middle East.
Foreign Minister Shokri spotlighted the warnings Egypt has recently repeated regarding continued and intensified Israeli practices in the Gaza Strip. Let's highlight Egypt's role to resolve the Palestinian conflict and end the current escalation taking place in the Gaza Strip and reaching a ceasefire and resuming the Palestinian peace process.
Egypt is the best mediator and best in this respect. That is why President Fattah has convened a conference this week. About 35 heads of state, prime ministers, and officials, high-ranking officials were present, and they all called for peace in Gaza. So Egypt is playing an important role, and at least the minimum of it is all the assistance, material assistance to Palestinians is coming to Arish and going from Arish to Rafah by the Egyptians who are preparing the trucks, who are preparing the drivers and everything. Egypt is doing its best in this respect, but the Israelis are trying to exterminate a whole nation, a whole people from their own country, trying to push them to southern Gaza, and then after that to other countries, which will not happen, and the Palestinians will stick and should stick to their own country.
Sir, what's the importance of the role of civil organizations to provide assistance and to ease the humanitarian crisis?
It is an important role and vital role at this stage, because many NGOs are doing their best to supply what the badly needed assistance to the besieged or attacked people of Palestine, and also in Israel itself. Many organizations and individuals and demonstrations against the aggression which is happening now in Gaza. So inside Israel and outside Israel, in the world over, NGOs are playing a very important and vital role to ease the pressure on the Palestinians and supply them with what is needed and prepare ground for a peaceful settlement between Palestinians and the Israelis.
Ambassador Ayoub, President Sisi has highlighted a roadmap to end the current humanitarian crisis in Gaza. That came during the peace summit that took place in Cairo on Saturday. How did the summit achieve its goals on increasing areas of understanding among the participating countries?
This is a very important summit which was convened by President Fattah. What is needed is that a clear message should be conveyed to Israel that peace in the Middle East is to their own advantage. Otherwise, they will be the first to suffer from no peace in the region. So we need, and the situation needs, as international pressure on Israel to stop aggression, as simply because there is a roadmap prepared and it should be adopted. It is a balanced approach to the situation so that settlement can be reached as soon as possible in these points.
Right. Well, sir, the pressing issue is the suffering of the Palestinian civilians in the Gaza Strip with lack of food, water, and basic life commodities. How can we facilitate more humanitarian aid to enter Gaza Strip?
Well, I think the trucks who are waiting in Rafah should be admitted to Rafah, because this will help, greatly help, when 24 or 25 or 30 trucks only are admitted, while 1,000 trucks are waiting outside. This does not help in any way. So the assistance, material assistance to Palestinians which is waiting should be admitted to Gaza to alleviate the strife of the Palestinians in Gaza, especially it contains water, food, medicines, and main necessary, and nothing like arms or ammunition in it. It's very clear, and they can inspect it. Nothing like that in it. So they are pressing the Palestinians to suffocating the Palestinians and this is against humanity and against the Charter of the United Nations itself.
Sir, how can we further pressure international community to support the people in Gaza and organizations like the United Nations and others to exert more pressure to reach a ceasefire and to return back to the negotiating table and to reach the possible solution of a two-state solution?
I will not say boycotting the Israeli government, but rather should be pressed by the international community as a whole, the international organizations, and the NGOs. They should be pressed. They should press Israel and try in every possible way to find a way out of this stalemate, because who are suffering? Human beings, about 2.4 million people are suffering. Most of them are elderly people, women and children, and the casualties every day are about 5,000 people. We cannot imagine that 5,000 people are dying every day in Gaza because of the Israeli aggression. So the international community, the United Nations, the NGOs have a role to play to press Israel to come to peace with the Palestinians as soon as possible.
Ambassador Ayoub, Mahmoud Ayoub, former assistant to the foreign minister, many thanks for your insight, sir. And dear viewers, now we go to this report on the current escalation in the Gaza Strip. Let's have a closer look.
State Information Service, SIS, said that Israel is responsible for impeding the exit of foreign nationals trapped in the Gaza Strip through the Rafah crossing because it shelled the roads leading to the crossing on the Palestinian side. During a press conference for foreign and local media held at State Information Service, SIS headquarters in Cairo on Tuesday, Rashwan revealed the Israeli aircraft bombed the Rafah crossing 4 times, and Egypt incurred the cost of its repair to allow the aid in. Egypt is currently not only in negotiations for the entry of the much-needed aid into Gaza, in cooperation with international organizations and the Red Crescent, but also for the exit of foreign nationals. As of Monday, 54 trucks carrying 457 tons of medicines, 251 tons of food, and 87 tons of water entered the enclave, he said, adding that another 20 trucks are expected to enter on Tuesday. As tons of aid remain queued on the Egyptian side of the crossing, awaiting the necessary authorization to proceed, Rashwan shed light on Egypt's call for a sustained flow of aid into Gaza to meet the needs of 2.3 Palestinians in the war-torn Strip. He also stressed the need for an immediate ceasefire and negotiations leading to political talks, saying the current situation in Gaza is not in line with international law. Rashwan also spotlighted the coverage of the Western media against the Palestinians, saying Western media is the humanization of the Israeli situation and the demonization of the Palestinian movement. He added that the Palestinian resistance, especially Hamas, is wrongly accused of initiating the escalation, noting that Hamas emerged in 1987, 40 years after the start of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. He added that the Israel-Palestine conflict resulted in the death of 100,000 Palestinians, 1 million wounded, and 12 million displaced people living in camps in Arab countries and scattered in the West. While criticizing Western media for focusing solely on Israel's humanitarian situation and ignoring the conditions in Gaza, Rashwan reported that 181,000 housing units in Gaza have been partially damaged and 20,000 units completely demolished. Rashwan expressed concern that the conflict in Gaza is on the verge of becoming a global crisis and wondered why Israel refuses to allow international media access to Gaza. He noted that 1.4 million people have been displaced from North Gaza, adding that Egypt warns against the deteriorating humanitarian situation and condemns attacks on civilians from both sides, making it clear that Egypt strongly condemns any targeting of civilians from the two sides. He pointed out that in the past 5 years, 100,000 Palestinians have been injured in Gaza compared to 12,000 Israelis. SIS had called for the resolution of the Palestinian issue without displacing the Palestinian people, adding that the two-state solution remains the accepted approach for Egypt. He added that Cairo firmly believes that the decades-old issue should be resolved through the two-state solution based on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as the recognized capital of the State of Palestine. Egypt rejects any proposals involving the forced displacement of Palestinians from their homeland.
جند الله جند الوطن إن دعا داعي الفداء لم نخن فدائي 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 يا أرضي يا أرض الجدود فدائي 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 يا شعبي يا شعب الخلود موطني موطني الجلال والجمال والثناء والبهاء في رباك في رباك والحياة والنجاة والهناء والرجاء في هواك في هواك هل أراك سالما منعما وغانما مكرما سالما منعما وغانما مكرما هل أراك في علاك تبلغ السماء تبلغ السماء موطني موطني على عهدي على ديني على أرض تلاقيني أنا لأهلي أنا أفديهم أنا دمي فلسطيني 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 أنا دمي فلسطيني موطني موطني الجلال والجمال والثناء والبهاء في رباك في رباك والحياة والنجاة والهناء والرجاء في هواك في هواك عيوننا إليك ترحل كل يوم تدور في أروقة المعابد تعانق الكنائس القديمة وتمسح الحزن عن المساجد سوف نبقى هنا كي يزول الألم سوف نحيا هنا سوف يحلو الندم يا عالم أرضي محروقة أرضي حرية مسروقة.
Welcome back, dear viewers. According to the Egyptian Red Crescent, more than 50 humanitarian aid trucks have entered Gaza through the Rafah crossing. The Palestinian Minister of Health said that dozens of humanitarian aid trucks that have entered Gaza from Egypt through the Rafah border crossing need to be more as nothing compared to the damage and losses. More in the following report.
Palestinian Minister of Health, May El-Kaila, said that dozens of humanitarian aid trucks that have entered Gaza from Egypt through the Rafah border crossing need to be more, as nothing compared to the damage and losses over the more than 2 weeks of Israeli strikes in the Strip. El-Kaila said 10 out of the 35 hospitals in Gaza are currently out of service, including 7 that have been damaged by Israeli strikes and 3 that ran out of fuel. She also noted that the remaining hospitals are treating 16,000 injured while lacking basic health supplies, including emergency drugs. Khaled Zaid, head of the Egyptian Red Crescent ERC in North Sinai, said more than 50 humanitarian aid trucks have entered Gaza through the Rafah border since the start of the attack. Despite this positive step, hundreds of trucks carrying hundreds of tons of aid supplied from various local and international channels remain queued on the Egyptian side of the Rafah crossing, awaiting the necessary authorization to proceed. According to previous remarks by UN Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator Martin Griffith, the Strip needs at least 100 trucks per day worth of humanitarian aid. He also stressed the importance of ensuring the sustainability of these shipments. Moreover, the Palestinian Ministry of Health reported earlier that the typical daily influx of health and humanitarian supplies to Gaza used to be 600 trucks per day before the Israeli assault. Meanwhile, El Arish International Airport has received more than 33 planes carrying over 700 tons of humanitarian aid from countries across the world. Zaid added that the aid was also provided by UNICEF, the World Health Organization WHO, and the World Food Programme WFP. Egypt's Minister of Health, Khaled Abdel Ghaffar, met with the Turkish ambassador and a number of top health officials from Turkey, where they discussed delivering medical aid to Gaza. Abdel Ghaffar said that the Turkish Ministry of Health is willing to send up to 30 ambulances as well as Turkish doctors in order to enhance the ability of the health system in North Sinai to provide health care to Gazans. Abdel Ghaffar also met with the team of Turkish doctors who arrived in Egypt, briefing them on the Egyptian Health Ministry's plan to provide urgent health services to Gaza citizens and informing them of the Egyptian hospitals that are involved in this plan. Several planes carrying humanitarian aid have arrived in Egypt from Turkey since the start of the Israeli bombardment in Gaza. Most recently, 2 Turkish aid planes arrived at El Arish International Airport on Tuesday, a source in the ERC in North Sinai told Egyptian media. Egypt has also received planes from many other countries carrying hundreds of tons of humanitarian aid, including from Bahrain, Qatar, Algeria, Jordan, United Arab Emirates, Tunisia, Venezuela, Brazil, Pakistan, India, and Denmark.
Welcome back, dear viewers. The Fatwa Center of Al-Azhar, the world's leading Islamic institution, issued a statement that it's permissible for Muslims to give zakat or charitable alms to assist Palestinians suffering the effects of Israeli attacks. The Fatwa Center also indicated that the givers in this case receive 2 rewards, the reward of their zakat and the reward for aiding their needy brothers, supporting their resilience and just cause. Zakat is one of the 5 pillars of Islam and requires financially capable Muslims to give 2.5% of their annual income to the poor and needy. Moreover, the center stated that answering the Palestinians' calls for humanitarian aid is a duty given the catastrophic conditions they are experiencing. Egypt's Decent Life Initiative has announced bank accounts to which Egyptians can donate in order to aid and support the Palestinian people amid the ongoing crisis. Egypt's Food Bank, the Egyptian Red Crescent and the Mersal Foundation also accept donations for Palestinians in Gaza. Earlier this month, the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Ahmed al-Tayyib, launched a Save Gaza campaign calling for people to support Gazans through donations to the Egyptian Zakat and Charity House that he supervises. In a previous statement, Al-Azhar stated that standing in solidarity with Palestinians through official challenge is a religious, legal, moral, and humanitarian obligation. And dear viewers, that ends our special coverage for the current escalation taking place in Gaza. We'll be updating you throughout the rest of the day. Many thanks for watching. This is Naveen Ramzi signing off.